What's up? We're back with another session of the Sisters in Therapy podcast, and today we're talking about sex.
Yum.
We're going to have a multifaceted conversation about sex, and I'm going to throw it to Dr. TK, and she's going to get us started because this is her session and her favorite topic.
One of the very many. But yes, I do have a particular just interest in the topic that is sex, just because I feel like it's access to pleasure that we all need. Life is hard. So being able to participate in the liberatory practice of sex is a beautiful, beautiful gift.
Come on, liberatory. I know that's right.
So just to get us started, can you guys tell me a little bit about like what was your first introduction to the topic of sex?
I'm gonna go on a leap and say it was probably in the 5th grade. I was in class, and my classmates were talking about something, and they were talking. I was like, "What y'all talking about?" We're like 5. Why are y'all talking about this?
You're not 5 in the 5th
I mean,
grade.
I know, but y'all know what I mean.
It's like,
So when I
"But
heard it, I was
what
like, "Huh." But it's interesting because, like,
You're at least 11.
yeah, for sure. And I don't even know like how I knew, but it just didn't when they were talking about it. I don't think they were talking about themselves. I think they were just talking about maybe what they saw on TV or something. But it's now that I'm saying it out loud, it's interesting that I picked up on like that seems weird
Sex seems weird?
at that time.
What do you think about it now? Does it still seem weird?
Child, please.
She said, first of all, you in my business.
Right. So I'm just saying, I just find it interesting that I felt like though I didn't know what it really was or what it was or what it looked like, there was still a that's interesting. I feel weird about it. Like with no context clues other than what they said, it felt like we were too young to be talking about that at that time. Like, why aren't we coloring? Why are we talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my kind of first introduction. Plus, do y'all remember the movie He Got Game?
Yeah. With Jesus Shuttleworth?
Yeah, with Ray
Denzel?
Allen.
Yeah, Jesus Shuttleworth.
Them sex scenes were crazy.
That was mediocre sex scenes.
I mean, they
Compared to,
were,
like-
but again, the young eyes.
Let me think what I
What
remember
you
seeing as a
recalling?
kid. I'm trying to think of a movie I seen as a kid that had a crazy sex scene.
That was the most explicit I had seen, primarily because my mom would either cover our eyes or tell us to get out the room if there was something inappropriate on TV.
Probably a thin line between love and hate was probably that was an interesting one. But that ain't, when did the first time my story is similar to your story, probably like 5th grade.
Yeah.
I remember there was a party and a classmate was saying that she had sex. I'm like, girl, we're like 11 years old.
Why aren't we coloring?
No, not why aren't we coloring, but why aren't we playing our recorders? Because that's what we had, those little recorders things. And so we were in band and they were talking about this party.
That one time at band camp.
We were in band and they were talking about this party they went to and one of them lost their virginity in 5th grade. And I was like, oh, okay. And they was talking about it. And then they was like, well, you can't really, you don't be doing it. I'm like, no, I don't.
Girl, not they was trying to stun on you.
But yeah, it soon became a very hot topic. From like 5th to 8th grade, it was just hot topics.
I mean, that's where puberty is hitting too.
I was about to say there must be something about 5th grade because my story was a 5th grade story
Yeah,
too, and it got
really?
wild real quick. So
Got
I'm like,
wild real
parents,
quick.
pay attention to your kids when they make that 4th to 5th
Yeah.
grade transition.
For sure. What would you say for you? Was it 5th grade too?
It was 5th grade, but I
Dang.
didn't
That's
even
crazy.
crazy. And we used to go to the movies all the time. And one time, my friend was telling me a story about what went on at the movies. And I said, at the movies? Now we're supposed to be watching them. We all were like, there are other things we're supposed to be doing right now.
Right.
Because we was definitely supposed to be in there watching the movie. But somehow they was in the back of the movie theater. Let me not say too much.
Yeah, there's something about that last row.
But it's
First of all, we didn't have no movie theaters where I'm from. Small town. That's why they was doing nothing but having sex.
ours too. And clearly the movie was just not interesting enough.
Oh my gosh.
But outside of that, when was there time, or was there ever a time when your parents or like an adult, because they talk about this, that kind of back and forth of kids learning from their peers about what sex is versus learning from an adult what sex is?
No, adults didn't talk about sex with children in a way that was educational. It was shame-based and fear-based tactics that was used to kind of make you stay away from it or be scared to do it.
How did those type of experiences, so like our personal experiences, how have they shaped your views of sexual intimacy and sexual health? Because I feel like those comments that you just mentioned of how they talked about it shapes a lot of our earlier years around sex.
I think it just leaves you uneducated when you do start the act of having sex, and then leaves you not knowing who to talk to as far as like an adult in your life. So this is why people talk to their peers about it. But for me, I think just that didn't really impact me sexually, I don't think, because I was already unlearning all of this stuff, but I definitely see how it impacts my clients and things like that.
Yeah. I would say I don't recall. My mom will probably say something different. Love you, girl, but I'm sure you'll say something different. I don't recall it being like a sit down, maybe vaguely.
Oh, okay.
But yes, maybe some education, but I think the message that I got a lot of times was like the shame around it.
Yes.
Like you wait until you're married. It was a very traditional way of teaching, right? And so when I would think at my 32 years of age, when I would think back to like how did I unlearn that, I think just from my experience in college, I realized it's not that deep. Like obviously you have to be safe, but it just was not that deep as far as like you should be afraid of this thing so you never do it. It wasn't like this long looming experience once I finally was participating.
Yeah.
I think they came from their perspective also from a standpoint of sexual justice for girls,
Yeah.
for sure, because there are so many layers to a woman, not even just women, but there's so many layers to sex in general that it can be very dangerous.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
But for this session, we're obviously talking about the liberatory act of sex. So actually, there was somebody who talked to me about sex. It was my stepmom, my dad's wife at the time, and she did it in a way that was not shaming. She did it in a way that would say like, "This is your paradise," and you don't just let anybody come into the paradise. I just remember her kind of specifically saying, "You just don't let anybody in paradise. The paradise means it's something special."
I like
So
that.
she probably one of the only women in my life to just have that type of conversation with me about sex. I do think that my mom came from a sexual justice approach because she was more so like, anybody touching you down there, like who do you like, where do you be when you sleep over such and such house? So she came from that standpoint. Now I did find all of those questions very confusing as a child. She didn't explain why she was asking me those questions.
Right.
So I was like, girl, what?
Yeah. But now you know.
But still, that's a little bit like making me uncomfortable as a child when you're having these type of conversations, but not explaining the
Yeah.
why.
Did it make you scared? Because I hear how
I think
some
it
kids-
made me, even if somebody had touched me down there, I don't think I would have told her. It didn't come from a place like, a warmth. It just came from a
Scared.
scared standpoint. So if she's nervous, I'm nervous. Like if somebody, I wouldn't say nothing because this is very uncomfortable.
Also, you're reading her emotional state, and nobody wants their parents to be uncomfortable or anxious.
Right.
And I think a lot of times parents don't always pay attention to that piece. Like I get that you're asking out of worry, you're out of concern, but if you're going to panic, kids are you think that kids aren't smart. Kids are in tune
very in
with your emotions and your emotional reactions. If they
Yeah.
think this is going to not make you feel well, they're not going to tell you because
Yeah.
they're trying to
Yeah.
protect you even as kids.
Right.
And that's what you hear in therapy most of the time,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. What about you, T?
My mom had a conversation with me. It was very open. It was quick and kind of passing, but she definitely just said, like, I don't want you to have sex, but I also know that you're probably going to have sex, so I can't tell you not to have sex. The only thing that I ask is that you come to me, you tell me so that we can get you some protection or we can get you some birth control because I don't want you to be pregnant. And kind of once I knew that, I knew that it was safe for me to, whenever I did get ready, to go and do that, and then to come and tell her when I did. Literally the first time, I mean, it's a little after the fact, but it was one time, and then I went
What had happened
and I
was-
told her, she was like, "Did you?" We protection, yes. But it was very comfortable. Literally after my first time, I went and I talked to her, and I realized even whenever I'm talking to my friends or even hearing clients in session that is not always the baseline experience. So,
And I wonder if that's a race thing.
oh,
Because our mothers are black, and my mom did not have that type of conversation with me, but my stepmom did. So I guess it's not a race thing. I don't know. But my mom definitely did not have that. It wasn't that type of conversation.
Yeah, I don't recall having that experience. I mean, I think parents believe to whatever extent they do that they're protecting us, but parents forget that you're raising this person to be a participating person in society, right? Like you can't raise them for yourself. So if you don't give them the tools, they're going to be afraid, or they're going to be afraid to talk to you, or to actually use discernment when it comes to situations like that. So
I think they also, it's a lot about their own lived experiences and how they came to sex. Because my mom, your mom was probably, I think, a little bit older and married.
yeah.
I don't know before she had sex, but she was. My mom, when she had this conversation with me, she had never been married. She was a single mom of 4 at the age of 19. So I think her main thing was get protection and don't have a baby when you're a teen. So coming from that perspective, I can see why she had that conversation with me earlier on. Like, and because I think there was a part of her that wishes somebody would have had that conversation with her.
I see.
So
Didn't that first question that you asked, did you mention how do we learn about the pleasurable part? Is that what you were asking?
I don't think she got there yet.
Oh, my bad.
not yet, but since you,
Clearly, I am
somebody's ready to
excited.
talk about the pleasure, and I love it. So tell me, how have you evolved
Ooh, that's a
into your sexual pleasure? Or what were some steps that you took? Or what helped you become more liberatory in your sex practices? Y'all both look a little uncomfortable.
because I'm trying to figure out how much I want to say and how much I don't want to say.
don't gotta-
appropriately.
Yeah, I think
You ain't got to say too much.
I think when I realized how important safety was for me, because it is a very intimate, even if it's a friends with benefits type of situation, there is still safety has to be involved, right? My needs have to be recognized. So I think from the safety part, I can experience pleasure, if that makes sense, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out what's
Re-ask the question.
So for me, it's kind of like what have you learned,
Your
or
road to
what were your
pleasure.
steps in having a liberatory sexual practice for yourself. So for me,
Okay.
a really, really big part of mine was knowing my body more and being more comfortable in my body.
Yeah.
So until I was able to, it's again almost like a mindful practice. And until I was able to like know that for myself and practice that for myself, mind and body in the moment, I was not able to have the kind of sex.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we talking masturbation?
I think that can look like masturbation. I think, again, it's also just a mindfulness of being super present in my mind and in
yes.
my body. So whether
Okay.
that's by myself or it's partnered, I'm always super aware of how my body feels and how
Yeah.
every touch feels and how, whether that's
Okay.
from another person or that's from myself or that's from a different type of tangible object. I'm always aware of it. And nothing
Okay.
else exists
Okay.
outside of this moment.
Okay.
Okay, so the question was, how have we worked through our own sexual pleasure?
Or the
We can go
journey
with it.
to, or like maybe what you've learned about yourself.
Oh, okay, yeah. I work with couples, so I do a lot of research on like relationship sex and things like that. So for me personally, I think that I've learned that in order to like have the type of sexual intimacy that I want, I can't have what we call sealed off sex. Which sealed off
tell us
sex,
more.
that's EFT, emotionally focused therapy. But so Sue Johnson has these 3 dimensions of sex and relationships, but sealed off sex is simply what I call empty sex. Remember in our early 20s we started talking about like, oh, it ain't working no more. Like
don't
this
give
don't
what it's-
give. So the whole friendship with benefits thing, like it's okay, but it is an example of what could be considered sealed off sex. While it's pleasurable, it lacks emotional connection.
Okay.
And so that's not sustainable for my intimacy,
Yeah.
the pleasurable part. So I don't really like sealed off sex.
Okay.
That's important too, because I think there is sex and then there is like sexual intimacy. They
Yes.
don't necessarily have to be the same
Correct.
They're
thing.
not the same thing based off her dimensions of sex in a relationship.
Do you want to tell us about?
So she got sealed off sex, which is like you can enjoy this. This is pleasurable to you, to your body. But as far as that mind body connection with another person, you're lacking that emotional connectivity and your intimacy is not getting to its peak. And then she has solid sex, and that's when you are emotionally connected with your partner. You're both present and you're open to the vulnerabilities. You're talking about things, and then you have synchrony sex, which means you guys are really synchronized in a way that this closeness is like really taking your intimacy over the top.
Okay.
And so that is really the ideal. Solid sex is great. Synchrony sex is the best, but it's just solid sex mixed with, it's just solid sex over and over and over again. Then you get synchrony sex.
That sounds like good.
Okay.
This is
So growing into it.
growing into
creating
it.
that lasting
Yeah.
sexual connection.
It's very interesting. I'm starting
No,
to.
that is
I'm
interesting.
starting to pivot from Gottman into EFT lately as
I
a
like it.
relationship
I
therapist.
do love that.
Do they talk about at all how one builds? I'm jumping ahead, but how one builds
Yeah.
those kind of sexual.
They don't talk. So the way that we would do it, like with our clients, is how you build it. This is just giving definitions. I'm pretty sure we're all doing this stuff with our clients. So, for example, something I like to do is the therapeutic activities I like to do with clients is definitely self exploration. Y'all kind of just talked about that. That's one of the things that they list as an intervention. Self exploration with an individual therapist if you are struggling on your own to explore yourself sexually, intimacy, emotionally. If you are struggling, then like you should go talk to an individual therapist about how to begin that practice of exploring oneself.
Yeah.
Can we go a little deeper into that about before we jump fully into interventions?
Okay.
About just how concerns around sexual intimacy usually show up in your therapy rooms.
Concerns about sexual intimacy,
Yes.
like
Or
challenges
struggles. Yeah. Struggles, challenges, anything.
I don't know if we want to go here, but for me as a couples therapist, I feel like trauma is always
Oh yeah. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
big
there.
one.
Absolutely.
And if you work with people, you're going to see trauma showing up in the bedroom for them. That is a thing. So that's where it comes up the most for me. Trauma in the bedroom, and then just shame. People not talking about what they want with each other. Just, I guess they're uncomfortable, or they're just feeling like, I didn't know she wanted to try it, and I didn't feel comfortable with asking because I feel like she was going to judge me.
Yeah.
That's what I get a lot.
Yeah, I get that. I also, people feel it's awkward to bring it up with me in a therapy session. So I think that's one of the main barriers. So like when they tiptoe around, I'm like, no, help me understand what we're talking about. That way I can help you to the best of my ability. I would say that's one of the main things, people feeling comfortable to bring it up in the first
Feeling
place.
uncomfortable with bringing it up.
Yeah, in the therapy session. Because
That's why I think we have to bring it up.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I definitely do.
I
Be
do
like,
too.
so how's the sex? Like if you're talking about relationship struggles,
Yeah.
highs or lows, you're probably not gonna bring it up 9 times out of 10. So I'm gonna just with a straight face say, okay, how's the sex?
Yeah, it's
Right.
on my questionnaire for my couples. It's on the intake.
Yeah.
The sexual satisfaction is on the intake.
Yeah.
People won't bring it up. They act like they'll talk around it, so you definitely got to bring it up.
For sure, for sure. And I think people also like, which I understand there's a protective, they want to protect their partner, right? Like they don't want you to
Yes.
perceive their partner as a bad person. So
Yes.
there's always a hesitancy to kind of go deeper into relationship issues.
Always, I feel like the same way whenever it goes to parenting.
Yes.
Yeah.
People. Sometimes kids are hard. So
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
that's from a parent perspective or being a child of a parent and you not wanting to talk bad about them, feels like that always comes up. So it's important to have a therapist who you know is not there to judge. Therapists
Absolutely.
can see that people don't always have great qualities or that the relationship might struggle in different ways. That doesn't automatically make them a bad person or a bad
Exactly.
partner or a bad parent.
But that's why I think as therapists, we have to make that a part of our intake session. When you have a new client, you orient them to the space by letting them know that, hey, you don't have to worry about managing my judgment about
Exactly.
anything you say in here about your husband, father, wife, cousin, grandma. You don't have to worry about managing my judgment. This is for you to be open and honest. I don't know these people. And so, yeah,
And this is your relationship. We're going to support you in those relationships, not to tell you who is good or bad or to come or go. That's completely up to you. We're following your lead. This is the way in which you lead your sessions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of noticed trauma comes up too.
Yes.
In different ways. So sometimes that can be literally like not wanting to have sex or only wanting to have sex in certain ways. I see, I don't want to call it religious trauma.
Yeah.
No,
that's
it's a thing.
big
But it's
one.
religious based.
That's a big one.
Shame around sex. Sometimes it's just generally having sex. Sometimes it's certain types of positions or asking for certain types of pleasure or how often you want to have it. All of these different things. Like we have all these caveats around like what is, I want to say, holy and sanctified sex. When
Nah, that's facts.
I don't think it has to be like that.
No. No.
So I would encourage it not to be, because then what's the purpose?
Right. And I think even in some of those teachings, if we can go this direction, the pleasure is always centered around the man. And so I think even in that, women, it is difficult for women to speak up about what they want, what they don't want, what they like, what they don't like.
You know what? That's actually true for men and women. Men also have a hard time speaking
yeah.
about what they like and what they don't want.
Well, no, that's true.
I did
well.
I did a poll on Instagram a long time ago about how comfortable people felt talking to their partners about their sexual intimacy and pleasure, and how much of them were pleased or displeased with their current sex life. So many people said that they were not pleased, more than half, with their current sex life, and just as many, which was the majority, said that they also did not feel comfortable talking to their partners about it. But what do y'all see as barriers for partners having these conversations?
Come on, couples therapists.
Societal myths about sex in general. Us thinking that it's just supposed to be super easy.
Ooh,
and,
talk to them.
Yeah.
I mean, just the movies have you thinking that you just rush in, you take each other clothes off, and
Right.
you just
Why
get
y'all
busy.
rushing?
I'm like, first of all,
Take
it
your
don't really
time.
always happen like that, if ever. And sometimes, you know, you have to schedule sex. Now, people look
Nah.
at me crazy all the time when I say, put it on the calendar. I know you, but I'm like, what's wrong with putting sex on the calendar?
What do you think? What's your assumption? on, like,
Because people think that they shouldn't have to work for anything or plan anything. It should just
Facts.
happen.
Facts.
It don't happen
It
like
should just
that.
be good, so we don't have to have conversations about if we just don't click, if I'm just not able to please them or they're not able to please me, or if it's just not like hot and heavy all the time, then we're
Yeah.
just not meant to be, or we just don't have good sex. No.
In the
Do
porn,
some
like
work.
just
Yeah,
thinking
no, the
your
porn.
sex
yeah.
life can be lit though, for sure.
Oh,
but it does, it's not.
absolutely.
It doesn't have to happen like it happened on TV,
Right.
for sure. I mean, you're adults and you're tired and you have work and responsibilities. So sometimes you have to. We're not even being mindful enough about this practice.
Yeah.
I think we
Absolutely.
see it too much as a physical act. It's more than a physical act.
It is.
And we got to change our mindset about it being more than a physical act so that we can actually be mindful and present and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think the same thing, and I feel like we do the same thing with relationships in general,
Yes.
is that we all kind of think that there's this fairy tale type of relationship that we should all have, and a fairy tale type of partner, and a fairy tale type of sex life, and that is just not reality. And it's not just women, it's men. Everybody is under this assumption of this
Yeah.
idealistic way
Yes.
that relationships work, and it is just not real. And the more and more you stay in that, the more disappointed you're
Yes.
going to be in your relationships.
Right.
I just started listening to a book called Come Together. Forgot the name of it. The author also wrote Come As You Are. And she talked about 3 specific things that lead to lasting sexual intimacy, enjoyable sexual intimacy. And she said it's not the wow factor. It's not the always even just the physical attraction. She
It's
said
not.
if anything, it's being friends.
Yep.
It is being comfortable talking to one another
Right.
about the sex that you have, and dismantling any type of myths
Yep.
Right.
around what sex should be,
Right.
and making an intentional commitment to having the kind of sex that both of you in the relationship want to
Absolutely.
have, and that those
Absolutely.
are the 3 keys to lasting sexual intimacy.
Yeah.
So all that
So
other
there's-
shit that y'all be seeing,
It don't work like that.
No.
it's not sustainable.
It's
No, my
that's the
favorite word is sustainable, and trying to get people to understand what it takes to be sustainable. Because one thing for sure is how it starts. It's not always going to be sustainable. Therefore, you're going to have to be flexible and have a growth mindset in adding things over time to make this sustainable.
Right.
Because we go through things in life, so you're going to go through things in relationships.
Right,
And then in relationships, it's even harder because you got 2 people who going through things.
Exactly.
Then you add the other factors, and you got kids who going through things.
Right.
The biggest things for families, though, when it comes to like being a mom and a dad and then being partners, is you have 2 relationships to nurture: the mom and dad,
Yeah.
and then the romantic partners. Mom and dad always take precedent over romantic partners, and this is how we starve our romantic relationships.
Yeah.
That's really hard to get people to see because they think that mom and dad should always come first. We don't have to say who have to come first, but just know you got to give
Both
to
need to be
both
tended to.
Right.
relationships.
Needs to be tended to, yeah.
I think kids would benefit more from seeing you love on each other
Yes.
and being kind of just affectionate towards each other, and versus just being so caught up in like the calendar and soccer practice. Those things are great. We need those things too, but you also got to tend to the romantic side of your marriage
Right.
or
That
relationship.
means slow down.
Slow down.
Absolutely.
And that's
Because when
easier
you
said
don't-
than done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you don't, then we see at the end of the, when the kids get ready to leave the house, if that's all that you tended to, a
Ooh,
lot of
that's
times
a whole nother story.
parents struggle
Yeah.
to find things that they like about each other or
Yep.
being around each other
No
because
connection.
there is
Yeah.
only, the kids are the only connection.
Yeah.
The kids are the scapegoats
Ooh.
in those situations.
So even in those type of sessions with clients, how do you help them get back to, or help them refocus?
I just really think that when I'm working with couples, at the base of the sexual dysfunction is sexual trauma from either the man or the woman. And that's hard because most of the time when you are dealing with that, you do avoid the act of sex. Now, sex has happened because they have children, but it's not a continuous occurrence in the relationship. It's something that happened, and the kids, and that was the goal, to get the kid.
Ooh.
So sexual pleasure and well-being is actually under-researched and under-talked about in society in general. So when you think about sex is typically in the field of public health. And in public health, I think, so sexual pleasure and well-being is overlooked in health promotion, policy, and programming. They typically only talk about sexual health.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
STIs,
that's fair.
STDs. We give that on the infectious, the disease, and then
Yeah.
like the unintentional pregnancies, but we never really talk about the sexual pleasure and well-being.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Nope, it's like under researched and under talked about.
That's a fair point because, unfortunately, a lot of people think that sex is primarily for procreation. Once
That's
that's
the
done,
sexual
that's
health.
it, yeah.
They kind of got like 4 pillars of sex in public health. It's sexual health, sexual justice, sexual well-being, and sexual pleasure.
Okay.
We really trying to talk about sexual well-being and pleasure for this episode, but it's hard to even get there because you got to talk about the sexual health and sexual justice, which is also very important for sexual pleasure.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk
Yes.
about that because I think that plays an important role. Because even when we talk about trauma, a lot of that is just the well-being too, and a lot of that is all consent
Consent.
and things like that. So,
Yeah.
what else do y'all see as ways that sexual justice needs to be addressed in the therapy room?
Well, for one, in this climate, I will say that since we are in Texas and there's an attack on sexual justice for women, just understanding your partner's perspectives as it relates to that if they are impacted by said laws that's kind of being overturned. I think that creates safety for them to even,
Absolutely.
because I've had women say, like, if you would understand where I'm coming from about like being so upset about the overturn of Roe v. Wade, then I would like to have sex with you, but since you don't really take an interest in wanting to know why I'm pissed off, I don't want to have sex with you.
Understandable.
that's
Because
something
they could
I've
try to
seen in-
kill me and you're going to be chilling because you got your nut.
Right.
What?
Exactly. No, that's
What?
crazy.
But then, but that's one way I've seen sexual justice kind of show up in the therapy room. But also, I will come back to sexual trauma after y'all kind of say what y'all think.
I don't even have any different one. I think it's definitely that. Trauma obviously plays a big factor in it. And I think it's also a matter, I think I'm forgetting the question, but I truly believe masturbation is a key way in knowing what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah. Bringing me back to self-exploration, and that is great.
Yes.
Even though that ain't what we was talking about, but that's
That
all right.
was not my bad. What
It's
was the
important
question?
though.
It is
It's
very important.
Yes, what was the question?
Just the ways that sexual justice
Oh.
shows up in your therapy room, if at all.
Yeah, I think it's certainly consent. That's one of the big ones.
And when people talk to you about like their maybe adverse experiences with sex, like
Yeah.
the trauma, that's also a part of sexual justice.
Yes.
Because those are conversations they will have to have with their partners.
Yeah.
And something I've learned is like as a therapist is I encourage my clients to not force their bodies through sex if they're not ready. And so
absolutely.
therefore you will have to tap into their vulnerability and open up to your partner so that they can understand what you're going through.
Exactly.
Because one of the interventions is like helping people work through the shame that the abuse has left them with. And that is really, really challenging for people.
Absolutely.
And that also leads confusion. So we process the confusion on how the touch of their partners, which they like, also mimics the touch of an unwanted violator. So while their hearts and their minds know that this is not the perpetrator, their body still feels like this is the unwanted touch. But it takes time, but people do get to a
They get
place to
through
where
it.
they enjoy sex again.
Yeah, that's
It
tough.
definitely takes time. And that's just practice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely practice. I was going to say that's one way to kind of work through it is being intentional with talking about it, the emotional piece and the physical piece of it.
Have you had this in your therapy room? And if so, like how have you helped your clients bring this up with their partners or things like that?
I'm gonna always include just transparency and honesty and just letting people know that you're having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
But also when I'm thinking about sexual justice and I'm thinking about the trauma and I'm thinking about consent, those are all kind of wrapping together for me in the same place. Just because I see a lot of times when people are partnered, sometimes there is a sense of obligation to the partner to have sex because we are partnered.
Yeah.
Or sometimes in relationships, because they're in a relationship, we don't see it as a negative thing whenever we are coercing.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, coercing. Whenever someone says like, I don't want to have sex or I'm not in the mood, and it's like, come on, I know you want it. I know you, come on, let's just do it. Let me just, please don't do that.
Yeah. That's super
That can
inappropriate.
trigger trauma. Also, it's important for people to know that they have the autonomy to pick and choose when to engage sexually, when to use their body in that way, and when they don't want to. And they need to know that they can, at any given day, any given time, make those decisions.
Yeah.
And so I empower them to make those kind of decisions and to trust in themselves to know that they can make those decisions in the moment with their partner, and to just let their partner know, hey, if I do this, or, we kind of come up with a red light, green light, yellow light situation sometimes, and saying, okay, like I'm good, I'm ready to go, or hey, not right now, or hey, maybe we can just do some heavy petting or kissing, but let's not do that.
Right.
Yes.
And I think a part of the intimacy too is what happens before that, right? Being able to see your partner. A lot of times one partner might be carrying more of the emotional labor and they might not just want to. So if you see that your partner is stressed or whatever, see them. See how don't just see them just because I'm ready to have sex today. No, ask them how they're doing. Talk to them.
Oh yeah, it definitely starts before the act of sex.
Yes.
Because if they've been cleaning, and we done said this before, and I'll say it again. If they've been cleaning all day, working all day, taking care of these kids all day, and you come home and you just want some, and I don't care who it is,
Right.
man or woman alike. If somebody doing all this labor all day and all you want is some sex,
Nah.
and you say they won't give me what I want, you ain't doing nothing.
I feel like somebody
To turn
shared
them on.
something on Instagram. I think it was Erica, and it said on their post like, even the nice man wants some ass too. Something it said.
Yes, he doing. He gonna
But-
get some if he doing
but
his
no-
part.
Exactly.
But that makes it seem like that sex is just for men when we speak about it like that. Sex is for both people.
For sure.
That's the thing.
What role
too.
do we play in what role do women play in the approach that sex what role do women play in the ideology that sex is just for men?
Oh, it's continued to
we play a role in
perpetuated.
it.
I love
But
this
what is the
question.
role?
What is our role to change it?
No, what role do we're complicit. What is our
We're playing a role in perpetuating this ideology
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
pleasure about sex is
we
only for
see
men.
it on social media all the
Yeah.
time.
When we lie and tell them that it was good and it wasn't.
Yeah. No, that's facts because
Constructive
That's
feedback
crazy.
is important.
it is. Don't ask me how it was and I tell you and you mad. I'm just
In a gentle way.
Of
But sometimes,
course.
but we don't always say the truth.
No, we don't.
But also, that's another thing that people are preoccupied in sex about. And I feel it's been a long time since I've seen a study, but back in the day, it was that women were preoccupied during sex for the majority of the time thinking about their partner's pleasure versus paying attention to also their own pleasure. You're like worried. You're in your mind. Is this good for him? Is this? Is he enjoying himself?
I have never had those thoughts during sex.
I
Love that for you. That's beautiful.
But I will
Never
say,
had
I
those
think
thoughts.
another factor, this might be a little off topic, but as far as women knowing their bodies, knowing that your vagina has its own scent, right? Like a lot of times there's a little bit of some hesitancy
That's a good
for certain
topic, actually.
acts during sex. Some people are uncomfortable because they don't like the way that they taste.
or the way that it looks, or the way that it smells.
Sorry.
These are
How do
all.
they know what they taste
If
like?
you go
What
down
you
there and then come
mean?
back
Oh,
up.
I thought you said that I
Nah,
misunderstood the
it-
question. I thought
these are ways that make people
I misunderstood.
hesitant.
Hesitant. Yeah, my bad.
Or
I should've
not
added-
present in the moment. to have
Correct.
sex.
Yes.
And in the beginning, it may be like that, though. That's why you got to keep practicing and keep talking. But also, that's why it's important to know the person that you're having sex with in regards
sure.
to having some foundation of safety. You have to like know the person. Now, sometimes random nights do happen, and by all means, those can be good nights as well.
For sure.
But for sustainability in a committed relationship or so, you definitely gonna have to have an awkward moment. You're gonna have awkward moments during sex.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are a lot of
Before
things
you
happening.
with, that makes it okay. Like, is it okay?
But not talking about the awkward moments is what causes the problem.
Yes. So how do you guys encourage at all your clients to just generally address sex with their partners?
Well, that's a good question.
I encourage a sexual check-in like I encourage a household labor check-in. You got to talk about it. What's working, what's not working, because we also know that like what worked when I was. Some people been married for a long time, so
For
what
sure.
worked when you were in your 20s may not work in your 30s.
Exactly.
So you have to
Exactly.
talk
We don't
about
know
it
this. How we don't know this?
because nobody talks about sexual health.
But also everybody wants
sexual
everything
pleasure
to
and
be the
well-being.
same as it was whenever they felt like it was at their peaks. I see the same things even with bodies. People are like, I don't have the body I had when I was in high school.
You're not going to.
You 45.
Exactly. You're
You
not
ain't supposed to
going
have the same body. You a grown ass woman.
I think people are short-sighted.
Sorry, I got
people-
laughed.
No, but I understand your passion. But I think
I
people
understand your
are
passion. That was a beautiful way
for
to say it.
real. Because I think people are incredibly short-sighted, and they want things to be complete.
It's
If it's
an
complete, I don't
uncomfortable
have to think
conversation.
about it. I don't have to change.
It can be.
It is
So
uncomfortable.
what helps it be less uncomfortable? Are there specific
But this
skills
is the
that you give
crazy
them
thing
to be
about
less
it, though. It's such a
uncomfortable?
popular topic, but it's such an uncomfortable conversation.
To actually have with the
To
person that
actual-
you're having sex with.
Exactly.
But you would talk to everybody else about it.
talk to everybody else about it.
Right.
People have gotten married and not talked about sex.
Yeah.
Yes, it has happened.
I don't understand.
I don't understand it either.
But they have had sex.
Do you think that they're just not interested in having sustainable, lasting sex, or do they not see the importance of it, or do they think that it's just something that'll always click because it clicks now? Like, what do you think
I think-
stops people from having the conversation?
I think they don't know how good it can actually be.
Bro, I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. I think it's that
Because
on top of I'm sorry,
bar.
but if they've only been with one person, then they believe that this is it.
but it can be great with
It
just
can
one
be
person.
great and better.
But that's true because, truth be told,
Brittany, you are
when I
I'm just
first
saying.
started having sex,
Oh God.
Look at us being awkward.
transparency. Why are y'all getting?
I'm
See,
not-
y'all
We're
can't handle
joking,
the
bro. Tell
therapist.
the story. When she was first having sex.
You ain't never have to bring it back around that hard. No, but initially, again, I wasn't always, the person that I am. We're always constantly living and growing. Sex is no different. So
Period.
initially, when I started having sex, it was one way, and I thought, okay, this is cool. I don't get what the full hype is about,
Right.
but but then I heard Ludacris say it.
Bro, if you say this,
Say it.
go ahead, say it, child.
Some say that sex is overrated, but they just ain't doing it right.
Okay, I was thinking him and Trina.
But no, turns out I wasn't doing it right because then the next time, eventually, same partner hit me with something different, and I was like,
She said,
"Whoa,
"Oh, I am doing it right."
Whoa, this
Yeah.
what it's supposed to be like?"
Yeah.
And you've been so this whole time.
Uh-huh.
So yes, I think that that's a big part of it is that you don't know that it can be
Better
or different until you open yourself up or you explore and then you have those different experiences.
No, that is
I
absolutely
agree.
true.
Imagination.
I agree. Yeah. That is so funny.
Anywho, because y'all went off the rails a little bit.
Oh, we did.
Um,
Okay.
So we still didn't really answer the question of how do you encourage partners to, it's going to be a difficult conversation. It's going to be uncomfortable. What are some things that you would give them as tips to, I guess, make it a little less uncomfortable
Talking about sex,
with their partners?
I tend to go towards just connecting in general. So sometimes they may not have to talk. Sometimes they can explore and do things.
Like
Yes.
what? Let's get
Eye
specific.
contact.
Soul gazing. So yeah, soul gazing is one of my favorite activities to have clients do, and eye contact. Soul gazing is when you kind of like, you can be in a robe or you can be derobed. I always encourage them to be naked, but or whatever they're comfortable with, because this activity actually people do not like doing. But I'm like, get in there and do it anyway.
I love this
And
activity.
come back
Yes.
and talk about it to me. Because why are you uncomfortable doing this with your partner?
Yes.
You're just looking at them.
You just look
I
at
have
them.
them sit with usually the man's or somebody's legs just out, and the
Yes.
other person's leg, they're naked.
They
Legs are
can
on
do
top
it.
of
You
theirs
can
and
work
just
up. You
look
can work up to it though.
at each other. It's a good practice.
No, it is.
but
Why you look at me
sometimes-
like
But yes, but sometimes you have to work them up to that level.
Agreed.
So you
Yeah.
have to let them do what's comfortable for them at first. So whether they're slightly derobed or fully derobed, you start with one of the 2. And then sometimes people have done this for like 10 minutes, but you got to start slow with people, say 1 minute. It's really hard for people to do. But just facing each other, I tell them to light a candle. No talking for at least 1 minute. And then whatever they choose to do after they have kind of faced each other for 1 minute, look in each other's eyes, and they can do whatever they want to do after that if they feel the need to. But another one is like dancing. I always tell people to dance. I ask them to dance naked. That's definitely touch. And then also just pleasurable touch without sex. This is also what,
yes, I
Yeah.
love that one.
so
Yeah.
this is also something that I do with clients who've experienced trauma in regards to sexual abuse or sexual violation. With their partners, they do pleasurable touch and just work themselves up to the intercourse and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things I do.
Yeah. I would say I think that's all a part of. Would you say it's foreplay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, but this is just it.
all for the purpose of not having
All for the purpose.
sex.
Foreplay is when they're gonna do it before sex. This
Okay.
is just for the purpose of connecting.
Okay. Okay. I definitely encourage touch. And I guess in a way I did explain it to that way, but I only categorize it as foreplay. But I can see how it is a little bit different.
Yeah, because the goal is not intercourse. The goal is just
Right.
connection.
Right.
If we can get that connection right,
a
the
good point.
intercourse may flow a little organically like they want it to flow.
Yeah. Yeah, you just gave me an idea for a couple of things. But definitely the connection is a big piece. And I try to help clients like in what ways can we deepen intimacy? Not even just in a sexual sense, but emotionally. That way you feel connected to this person that you say that you love and loves you back, right?
That's the talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's asking questions. So I did create. So sometimes people want you to almost do everything for them in regards to telling them what to say.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. But so you can get tips on the internet or from other relationship experts and create questions for check-ins about sex to clients. Like, what is something you've always desired that you never told anybody?
Yes.
Sexually, those type of check-ins. And then like your fantasies or something you always wanted to try. Or even asking them what movie star they would like. Those are also questions that you can ask each other. You get people to talking eventually, and then you just keep doing this shit all over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I like that. I do something similar to that as far as the questions is kind of fantasies, but also, so it doesn't have to be when you sit down and you have these sex check-ins. It doesn't have to just be a blaming, a shaming thing of what we're not
no.
doing right.
No,
I'd
no,
like
no.
to talk and gear it more around what do you like? What did
Yeah.
feel good for you during this part of sex? For it to be okay that all of it wasn't great or you didn't enjoy all of it. Let's talk about the pieces that were really enjoyable for you. And so then I have this little cube that has blank sides on it that you can fill it in with a marker.
cool.
And so they can both add like 2 things that they've done that they have already done that they like and 2 things that they want to try. And then they can take turns
That's really cool.
tossing the cube and they can do it for a different amount of time. So have a die on the side and that can be maybe how many minutes they do each thing.
Yeah.
So it's fun, it's a game, it's exploration, but it's also like trial and error of like, we
Right.
might fuck with this, we might not. Let's see.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. I also encourage date nights too, because especially
Yep.
my clients who are parents. I'm like, when's the last time like y'all actually set aside time for each other? Schedule a date night.
Yep.
So reconnecting.
All right. So just to close us off, what are
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't remember us talking about the benefits of sexual pleasure and well-being on one's life. Was that not one of your questions?
Possibly I didn't have it in front of me though, but let's go.
What do y'all think are the benefits of having of sexual
man.
pleasure and well-being?
Let's start with you, Britt. What
every-
are the benefits for
Love and
you personally?
happiness.
For you personally, what are the benefits of
What?
Sexual pleasure and well-being.
intimacy and
Oh,
well-being?
I'm a
and-
happy person. when that is a part of my life. No, seriously. It's all about safety for me. Wait, what's the question again? What are the?
Why you keep forgetting the question? Are you okay?
I told you I did not get enough sleep.
So what are the benefits of
Somebody else go.
sexual pleasure and well-being? Stress reduction,
Yes.
Yes.
improve sleep.
Improve sleep. Also,
Like a light.
Oh yeah,
because it get me there every time.
It do. By
But
myself, too.
different people have different. This is another thing she talked about in Come As You Are. Different people. I think it serves different purposes for different people. For me,
Yes.
it's definitely a stress reliever. For some people, because we all have different starters, she calls them.
Mm-hmm.
So for some people, when they're highly stressed, they do not want to engage in sex at all. Like
Not
their
at all.
mind cannot go there. They cannot
Yeah.
be present with it. Other people who have like a quicker engine, so you kind of step on the gas and it just goes. Like anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Sex can be a stress reliever,
Mm-hmm.
and that's definitely what it does to me. So it's a stress reliever. It helps me sleep. It makes me feel connected to myself and my body. Again, it's another mindful practice.
Mindfulness and sex could be a whole nother topic.
It can. We oh,
Part
that
two.
gonna do that.
Part two.
I love it. But joy, connection.
Yeah.
Overall, though, it improves your lifespan, which is
Oh,
very important for
absolutely.
older people to have healthy sex lives.
Yeah.
And they do.
But I do want to
seen
add a
the
little
stats.
caveat because some people use sex primarily as a stress reliever. If
That's
that's
a-
your only outlet,
That's
That's a
a
slippery
different, you
slope.
know what,
That
that came
tips
up
to
as
addiction.
that also is a part of, but that could also be one of the downfalls of sexual liberation and trying to take ownership back from being abused by sex. It can be that, just using sex as something I do all the time.
Ooh, that's
what
good.
it can be.
that's good.
That's the downfall of sexual liberation, when it's kind of like, it's still sexual liberation, but it becomes a problem when it's just, this is the only way with
Yeah.
different partners, multiple partners, that you
Yeah.
try to take your power back.
Yeah.
I want to take that outside of sexual liberation
Okay.
because that is that's a maladaptive behavior. That's a maladaptive coping skill.
Okay.
Because
The literature
you're
calls
using
it one of the downsides of sexual liberation, because sexual liberation
thinking
is
that it
great,
is
or
sexual
thinking that
liberation.
is sexual liberation.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
we might think it, you might process it in a way that this is sexual liberation, but if you haven't done the work to heal the trauma and you're
Yes.
doing this in
You're
ways
masking
that
the
are
trauma.
Yeah.
unhealthy
Yeah.
and cause harm to yourself or anybody else, then that's when it becomes something different,
Right.
in
Now,
my
I-
opinion.
I am surprised that what hip hop and sexual liberation did not come up in regards to the women rap, because they're often criticized for their
Girl.
explicit rap lyrics as it relates to their sexual practices and pleasure and like.
Oh, I agree, and I think that that's
surprised.
because again that the men that is one way that people perpetuate that sex and pleasure is only
For
men.
yeah.
And so as soon as women kind of take that autonomy back to their own sexual power and their body and their liberation with it, it becomes problematic. But men talk about what they do to women's bodies all the time for their pleasure or displeasure, and you never account for how that contributes or doesn't contribute to a woman's pleasure. So when women do that, I really don't want to hear shit.
It's
Yeah,
definitely, they get a lot
because-
of criticism for sure.
Yes.
Now, am I tired of all the rap talking about the same thing? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'm an auntie now. I don't know.
I don't mind it just because I feel like it's a different. I don't love all of it, but
No, I don't love all of it.
there seems to be a change and a shift in women knowing that they can have sex for their pleasure
For their
That's
pleasure.
from
the
this
key.
type of music.
I don't know if that's new though.
I don't think it's new. I think people calling
Really?
it hypersexuality is new.
Lil' Kim was doing this in the 90s, and people was criticizing her for it. She's been on talk shows and people asking her questions about the raunchiness of it, and she explained it just how you just explained it.
Or maybe we're aware of it now because we're.
I was about to say, I
Okay.
know that there was music like this that was existing, but I
Yeah.
just didn't hear people like my age or people who were sexually active saying that this makes them feel empowered.
Got you.
Okay.
I know the music has been around.
Okay. Okay. I hear what you're saying about people. You haven't heard women say this make them feel empowered back then.
Yes,
But I would think that's because we weren't adults back then.
likely.
But looking at,
But also, there was just still more shame around it. I think we're slowly moving more out of.
so are you
the
saying
shame.
more shame from even women?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Women still criticize it today as well.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, of course.
and I get it.
But also, those
get
are
both
women that
sides
think
of
that
it.
sex is just still supposed to be just for their partners.
And it,
I said, and those are the type of women
Oh,
that think that
yeah.
the sex is just supposed to be for
Yeah.
their partners.
Gotcha.
So they don't know what sex can be like for them. It's
This is
just
true.
another service
right, because
that we offer.
Even with you criticizing, like NDRE, when she came out to criticize Megan, what's your point here? You're not saying anything that other people haven't said.
But see, NDRE also talks about sex. She just talk about it in a different way than Megan. Like,
Right.
And I don't like that
Like
because
Janae
Janae talk
Aiko-
about it all the time, and
she
y'all
just
eat that
whispering.
shit up.
'Cause she whispering.
I'm like, so the R&B girlies and the rap girlies both talk about sex. But
Yes.
like somebody was like, Janae Aiko just whispers it.
Yeah.
Megan just says
she
it
nasty
loud.
too. And
she
because
nasty
They
too.
all talking about it, just talking about it in different ways.
Yeah.
For sure.
And Janae Aiko ain't using no metaphor. She's telling you what she's about to do. Very explicitly.
As
She's
she
just
should.
whispering it
But
to
she's
you.
a petite woman,
Yeah.
and Megan is a bigger woman, and I
And
think that also
colorism.
plays a role in it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure skin tone,
Yeah.
body size,
All that
tone
plays
of
a factor.
voice.
Yeah.
If you threaten, just say that. Just
Exactly.
But no, that's interesting. I think that when it comes to sexual liberation in regards to rap music, that's a whole nother topic as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Whole
absolutely.
nother topic.
Yeah.
So what were you about to say? You about to wrap up?
Yeah, just as a closing, like, what would you give? What advice do you give to anyone navigating their sexual liberation and sexual intimacy, individually or partnered?
I can go with individually. I would say take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Journal about it. Explore in ways that you feel are necessary. That way you learn to communicate your needs and desires when you do become partnered or when you do decide to have sex with someone. I say you have to take your time to learn yourself while also like being in spaces with another person, I think.
Yeah, I would say also like just building your self-esteem in regards to like all aspects of your life.
Absolutely.
In regards to like where you show up at work, how you manage your stress, all these things plays a role in your ability to access sexual pleasure and
agree.
intimacy. So just building your self-esteem, your stress management, and just self-exploration, all of those things.
Yeah.
I would definitely say knowing yourself for sure, and also knowing that you have the right and the responsibility to tune into your body and to know that your body has the right to exist in a free, a liberatory way, in a way that feels good to you mentally, emotionally, and physically. Know that you have that right and do the work individually and in your partnerships to make sure that that is respected and honored.
Mic drop.
And I knew Takesha was going to hit you with the rights and responsibilities because that's her favorite thing to say sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, because we all got rights and responsibilities. We need to be
Period.
tending to them both.
Exactly.
Okay, so with that, go love yourself
Go love yourself.
and go have some great sex.
Go love yourself.
Yeah.